Welcome, everyone. It's the November 2021 episode of Fishtrap Fireside, featuring readings from three wonderful Wallowa County writers, Lauren MacDonald, Randi Movich, and Amy Zahm. Fireside is a monthly reading series we've designed to feature diverse voices from local writers, and each month offers a fresh look at what people of the West are thinking about and writing down. Now, for those of you who are new to Fishtrap, our work is to promote clear thinking and good writing in and about the West through programs like Winter Fishtrap, The Big Read, writing workshops, and our annual Summer Fishtrap Conference. More on that in a second. November's Fishtrap Fireside is sponsored by local tea purveyor Sami Tea. Thanks, Sami Tea. Owner Kaomi Oliver creates wonderful green teas. Check them out at groundgreentea.com. Now, before we get going, I've got some exciting news for all of you writers out there. Beginning November 15th, Fishtrap is accepting applications for the 2022 Summer Fishtrap Scholarships and Fellowships. The primary benefit of these awards is to give writers with great promise an opportunity to attend Summer Fishtrap. And since 1990, we've given more than 200 scholarships and fellowships to people who would bloom with the Summer Fishtrap experience. Go to fishtrap.org to learn more. Okay, let's get going with our first reader. Lauren MacDonald works with words while curiously exploring the cosmos, plants, stars, humans, mysteries, patterns, roles, love, pain. Her work is an expression of experiencing the natural world inside and out. Welcome, Lauren.
I'm glad to be here, and I have my fire, so I'm in the fireside spirit. I'm going to read 5 poems. I write short little poems, and so here's some short little poems. This one's called Come. With a look of desperate hope, we locked eyes. Fear choked our throats, nearly breathless, enough to wake us from a dream of passing. Not yet, crushed the ocean waves. Not now, cried the crow. Come, sang the mother. You and we are for this moment. Thanks for listening. This next poem is called Raised by Water 2 Ways. I am his mother again, a cistern, where to pour sorrow, rage, confusion. Well she holds, great mother, age of 10. Let her maiden voyage be raising you above the waves with her already tired arms until she breaks to flood the earth around her. These rivers will raise you, swollen, raging. As they lift, nothing will ever make more sense than every bank bowing to our mighty flood. I'm working on a photo journal called Harvest Spread, and I wrote this poem for it. It's a harvest poem. And although I don't work in the fields, I feel connected and want to think about those who do. Pray for slow harvest, for one, then the other. And if they come together, all dropping, too heavy, too swole, pray hungry mouths full. And if we must hustle for this bounty, pray, oh pray, that these cuts born from wheat whacked through skin remind us living is a blessing and not a sin. O supper, pray, knit this sacred to our bones. May pleasure take hold, for the fat of this land is for the working and the cold. My order escapes me. Maybe that's part of it. This is called She of Many Forms. And she of many forms came now, this time, as a cloud, full of herself, billowing from one window to the next. A rainstorm, a sunrise, a season. She's the whole sky. My parting poem, my fire poem. I don't have a title for this poem. The free ones have found a place to sing, as sunset asks for whatever moves us to move us. We pour wine's last drop, dance into dusk, while songbirds nestle tall grasses. Fire, call these bones home to ground. That's it, ta-da. Thank you for having me.
It's always good to hear Lauren's words. Before we get to our next reader, I want to tell you about a couple online writing workshops that we have coming up. On Saturday, November 13th, The Secret of Energy with Karen Ovanen. And then a short story in a month, a virtual workshop with Elliot Treichel, Saturday mornings in December. Go to fishtrap.org to learn more about those and save your spot. Okay, our next Fireside reader, well, it's her first time reading at Fireside, and I'm pretty excited about this. Raised in the wilds of the San Fernando Valley, Randi Movich could not wait to leave her neighborhood for ocean swims, camping, backpacking, skiing, anything outside, really. That wanderlust brought her a life of work and discovery around the world, from France to West Africa, and eventually Walava County. Almost 10 years as a nurse now, Randi's main writing assignment is documenting chart notes. But after attending Fishtrap's outpost on the Snake River program a couple months ago, she rediscovered her desire to write and wander again.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight, and just want to give a shout out to how fortunate I feel to have been able to attend Fishtrap on the River this year. It was an enlightening experience and helped me to start writing again. And this is one of the things that I wrote on the river. This is called Weedo, also known as the light-skinned one. My name is Weedo, which means light-skinned one in Lahomagui. The French conquerors called the people and language Toma. I imagine dumbed down for their unsophisticated tongues. I live in Lopo, a forest village of 200 in Guinea, West Africa. I am living my Peace Corps volunteer dream. The toughest job I will ever love. The San Fernando Valley girl turned hippie tree hugger UCSC banana slug. I requested this. The continent, Africa. French-speaking, rural, no phones, newspapers, electricity or running water, no sidewalks or swimming pools. A National Geographic inspired myth. I plunge. Technical difficulties. My name is Weedo, the light-skinned one. Odd, tall, white, unmarried, unbounded, no family, no village, alien starship, untethered. My home for 2 years, a mice-infested brick hut with an occasional serpent visitor. Roof draped with long-haired palm fronds, plop smack dab on dried, polished red mud joined by others in circular formation around an open courtyard scattered with woven grass mats hidden under piles of rice stems and husks. A woman's strong pounding rhythm with mortar and pestle will separate the fat rice. Rice is staple, the fortifier. No meal is complete without it. My name is Guido, the light-skinned one, moving carefully and clumsily along the piles. The trip to the main water source requires a walk through the heart of the village and down the steep dirt road. This cuts through the coffee plantations. The single-foot wide trail is slippery and leads to a short, steep, pencil-thin path oozing red mud. The spring grotto below trickles through dripping ferns carved into a red clay cliff. The daily journey is treacherous, or at least that's what I think. 1 step forward, 2 slips forward. I leave my flip-flops up top. We have toes for a reason. The tricky part remains. I ascend the sticky, slippery clay, balancing several gallons of potable, cloudy water in an open basin on my head. I work my way back to the larger dirt, now seemingly flat road. My step slows, heartbeat quickens, breath shallow. The alien re-enters the village. I have already lost half of the water, visible by my drenched skirt. Friends along the path greet me with, "Bue, emga?" I respond with the expected, "Bue, emgai?" I am sure they wonder about my impoverished upbringing. Weak neck, poor balance, unmarried, childless, and no land to grow rice. America, a wealthy land unknown to them, yet incapable of preparing a girl with the most basic skills she will need to survive this life. Are her ancestors aware? I know my role. I am the maker of laughter. There will be a full moon tonight. Music, singing, and late night chatter by the fire as darkness descends, though something is amiss, an odd stillness. My mood flips as a friend runs to the door of my hut and literally pulls me out as we race our way to a very large hut in the next compound. Swept dirt floor at our feet. Moist heat nearly drowns me. More familiar faces pack every inch of space. People continue to crowd into the dimly lit light. Endless room to enter. I can smell sweat mixed with palm wine and fish. Whispers and hushes. What is this odd gathering? There is no Pue Emga accompanied by the Toma version of a handshake, 2 hands lightly slapping together, then gliding past each other with the final snap of thumbs. The mood is somber, expectant. I'm not afraid per se, but my Lopo family is different tonight. I am wishing for my nightly meal of rice and fish stew or cassava leaves mixed with red palm oil. Where are Seba, Koli, and Yasa, my friend and her mother who have adopted me, whose fire I sit around nightly in the woman's house, predictable, safe, familiar? They have guided me, fed me, and have become my family this past year. I feel at ease, almost like I belong here. What is going to happen tonight? We are all wondering. The oil lamp's glass cleaned earlier in the days yields a smoky yellow view of 2 women dressed in toga-like drapes. Angels, perhaps? The incantations begin abruptly. A familiar yet unknown face offers each a calabash cup of a white, frothy brew. They drink, they obey, they are transformed. Trance-like, they move with purpose into the open air. The procession follows. They take their instructions from an unseen source. Evocation, incantation, whirling, flailing hips and arms, frantically moving across a moonlit path. the crowd desperately trying to keep up with their arrhythmic night frenzy. They halt in the center of a compound next to two thick concrete rectangles. I know these are graves. The Toma people I live with bury some of their ancestors in the middle of their compounds. This is no secret. Although my Lahomagui is rudimentary at best, it seems the two women are speaking in tongues. A nearby acquaintance whispers they are talking with the dead. The visitor who has given them their frothy brew interprets. The conversation is casual, focused on what is to come in the next year. Crops, families, sickness, water, normal, regular things, sacred things. The village shares their own blessing and wishes the ancestors well in the coming year. My world in that moment turned upside down, death no longer final. The frenetic energy subsides and the medians crumble to the ground, exhausted. I feel their raw fatigue. I have been missing people who have died. Nana Jenny, Nana Helen, Grandpa Barney, Aunt Blanche. I feel deeply betrayed. Blood family expectations do not match my new Lopo family reality. Vipers in the latrine, their angular heads peeping in my doorway. Little village girls talk to me through the bamboo pole fence as I take a less than private bucket bath under the shade of a mango tree, planting and weeding okra from sun up to sundown, harvesting rice stalk by stalk with a pocket knife, leeches in the rice paddies holding tight to my shins, breastfeeding babies, death in childbirth, wailing, sorrow. I have been pushed into a swirling mess of not knowing. I tiptoe through. I know a little more. Begin again. My name is Guido, light-skinned one.
It's always good to hear new, fresh voices at Fishtrap Fireside. Say, do you want to stay even more connected to Fishtrap and the Fishtrap community? Consider becoming a fish trapper. Yeah. It not only allows you to provide ongoing support for all Fishtrap programs, but gives you access to other cool benefits, like a 10% discount to programs like Summer Fish Trap. Membership starts at just $5 a month. Check it out at fishtrap.org. Okay, our final Fishtrap Fireside reader this month is a familiar name and a familiar face to Fishtrap going back many years. In fact, Amy Zahm curated Fishtrap Fireside for 4 seasons. Amy grew up in, ran away from, and later returned to Wallowa County. She spends her time in its mountains, valleys, canyons, on foot, on skis, and on horseback. In addition to writing, she is a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine. Her writing focuses on the connections between place, history, and a discovery of self. Amy received her MFA in creative writing from Eastern Oregon University, and her work has been published online and in print in several literary publications. Welcome, Amy Zahm.
Thanks. It's great to be here back at Fireside again. It's been a while. And thanks, Lauren and Randy, for those amazing readings. It's hard to go last because it's hard to follow greatness. So I'm going to read an essay that I wrote a while ago and sort of tidied up. It's called Transitions, and it's a little bit about life transitions. It's a little bit about my transitions from my former life to my current life. Yeah, and just one thing, I mentioned the name of a patient about halfway through, and just full disclosure, she's not a real patient. She's an amalgamation of several people that I've worked with over the years. So just disclosing that in this, she's a piece of fiction in my nonfiction work. Okay. The world falls away in the space between my skis. Crystal flakes sparkle like diamonds in the wide bowl. I inch closer to the edge, easing my tips into the open space before me. Inhale, exhale, Cold morning air fills my nose. Tiny hairs freeze into stalactites. Damp from the short climb, polypropylene clings to my lower back as I bend over to tighten my boots. The voices of my buddies swirl around me, but I don't catch their words. I want to enjoy the moment, savor the anticipation, but I need to get off the rim. The curve of the bowl, the expanse of blue sky, the wide open space makes my head spin, my knees weak, my stomach churn. Once I'm on the slope, no matter how steep, I'll be fine. The shelter of the wall behind me, even when it's nearly vertical, offers a boundary, a sense of security, something to sink my edges into. My skin tingles, heart quickens, mouth waters just a little. I adjust my goggles and straps of my poles, extending my fingers before finding my grip. And I drop in, smiling, my skis disappearing into the sea of white. I guide my skis into the fall line in the heart of gravity's pull, finding the speed required to float in the thigh-deep snow and establish a rhythm of turns. The clouds parted last night and temperatures dropped, so the powder is light, pristine. It flies in my face, whooshing and whispering as I arc and fall, float and fly. There's a moment, brief and critical, between each turn, like the space between breaths in meditation practice, like the second before skin touches skin. In that moment, you must surrender to gravity, to space, to intimate touch. If you hold back even a little, the moment disappears. Doubt creeps in, momentum stops, chaos ensues. I found her journal in a desk drawer, stashed away like a forgotten letter. It held only a few entries. After the entry about me, the pages remained blank. I worry about Amy, she wrote. I'm afraid she'll never amount to anything. I'm so disappointed. My hands shook and my heart closed in on itself, a heavy stone sinking in the pit of my belly. She always encouraged me to excel. She wrapped me in high hopes, a career, a home, a family, but I wriggled from her grasp. I took my first steps toward adulthood and headed into the mountains, to snow and trees and cold, crisp air. I strapped boards to my feet and found freedom in a bum's profession that took me across the country and around the world. I flipped to the beginning and glanced at the date, fall 1990. That made sense. I had just given up my first real job after college to teach skiing full-time. I ran my hand along the smooth orange cover of the spiral notebook, remembering a phone call. Mom, I decided not to take the job. What? Why not? It's a wonderful opportunity. I know, but I've always wanted to teach skiing ever since I was a kid. Oh, Amy, really? Mom, is it too late? Can you call them back? I told them this morning, Mom, I just don't want to go. I don't understand what you're doing. Don't worry, Mom, I'll be fine. Well, I hope so. Her heart wasn't failing yet. Her kidneys hadn't started to malfunction. It would be 8 years before her emergency bypass surgery would bring me home, force her to turn to me, and let me become her advocate. On the walk through her illness and death, I became the adult she feared I'd never be. The look in her eyes as she squeezed my hand and whispered her last words, I love you, honey, told me she was grateful, not disappointed. When people tell me I was too young to lose my mother, I nod. What I rarely say is that I lost her just in time. Once in a while I say, especially when talking to another motherless woman, I really miss her, but I'd never have been brave enough to go to acupuncture school if she were still alive. It's as if that deep loss pushed me off the rim and onto the pitch of my own life. As an acupuncturist, I facilitate flow. By pressing stainless steel needles into invisible points, I unravel knots of pain and pressure, direct rivers of energy, and create space amidst tension. Cycles, movement, and change lie at the heart of Chinese medicine. When health is vibrant, qi or energy flows smoothly through the seasons, our lives, the hours in each day, the channels in every body. But I can only start the change. Without participation from the patient, the patterns that created the problem quickly resurrect it, and the cycle of healing grinds to a halt. Years ago, one of my teachers told me that nothing could positively impact a patient's health and well-being more than diet and lifestyle. The problem lies in the resistance nearly every patient has to making the necessary changes. My experience teaches me this lesson again and again. Even when their life is at stake, people struggle to stop smoking or drinking or eating fast food. It seems many confront a deep-seated fear of trying and failing, or more often, of what might happen if they succeed and actually feel better. Who will they be on the other side of those changes? Like a good ski guide, I help patients trust themselves to find the clearest path and to discover that they are worth the hard work. I ask, where can we find the best conditions in that sweet line? Where can we find ease in the process rather than falling into self-criticism and judgment? Take Laura, she just turned 50. She holds herself stiffly upright most of the time, but when she thinks I'm not looking, her shoulders collapse, caving her chest around her heart. Her back hurts. She has headaches 3 or 4 a week. She feels tired all the time because she can't sleep through the night. I rest my fingers on the soft skin of her wrists, listening to the steady thrum of her pulse, seeking a key to the root of her headaches in the space beneath her words. When she describes her pain, she slips into second person. You feel it right here, and it wakes you up at night. And then you get a headache, and it's impossible to concentrate. And then your husband complains because you're grouchy. As she gets settled on the table, I begin to gather information about her daily life. She winds up with coffee and winds down with wine. In addition to working full time, she's busy attending her kids' sporting events and taking care of her home. On weekends, she collapses, binge watching Netflix. How about exercise? Walking, stretching, yoga? What do you do for yourself? Not much, she says. I just don't have time. I hear this again and again, especially from women. I don't have time to exercise, to eat better, to care for myself, to breathe. I rest my hand on Laura's lower back. Can you breathe into my hand? I ask. We work with her breath for several minutes before I place her needles and leave her to rest, knowing that relaxation is powerful medicine. At the end of the treatment, Laura dresses and prepares to leave. I tap on the door and enter the room to see how she feels. She holds a tissue at the corner of one eye and then the other. I don't know what's wrong with me, she says, shaking her head. It must be the hormones. I don't know why I'm crying. Maybe you just needed to. Sometimes moving energy wakes things up in us. Maybe, she says. From the perspective of Chinese medicine, the years between 48 and 60 represent a time for slowing down and enjoying the fruits of our labor. This is the autumn of our lives, the time of harvest and abundance. But in a culture focused on having more, doing more, staying young at all costs, Laura continues to push herself to keep up, even as her body yearns for a smooth transition into the next stage of life. It sends her signals, an ache or pain, a little anxiety, a hot flash. But Laura, like most of us, turns the volume up and keeps on going. That evening, as I plop onto the couch and berate myself for the extra padding around my middle, I remember Laura. I don't have a family or many responsibilities beyond myself, but I make the same claims. I don't have time. I don't make time. Time to rest, time to reflect, time to change. As I move into the second half of my life, the question is, can I ride the wave? Can I slow down, be quiet, and listen? Can I let myself flow? The first time I dared the steep pitch of a canyon wall, fear overcame me. I eased over the edge, sliding sideways onto the firm spring snow. My edges held, and I attempted a turn. As my skis crossed the hill, I hesitated. My uphill hand dropped back. I waited too long. My edge caught, my balance shifted, and I was lost at the mercy of the endless slope below me. I fell and began to slide, my body tumbling and spinning, eyes closed, equipment flying. With nothing to stop my descent, I accelerated head first, feet first, shoulder first, down and down and down until I reached the bottom, the place where the creek bed meandered through the valley, the spot well beyond the usual exit. I had a long climb out. I emerged from that day bruised and abraded, bleeding a little, sporting 2 black eyes and a cut on the back of my head. Stiff, aching, and wise. It took time and patience and courage and more falls, but I eventually dared to surrender, to give it up to gravity, to throw myself into the boundless gap and trust the mountain to be there to meet me. I found my rhythm today, a shorter turn, perfect for the steep, consistent line on the right side of the bowl. I hear the whoops and shouts of my friends behind me, delighting in the perfect conditions. Laughing, I adjust my course, looking for the untouched spaces between other tracks, burying my rhythm, finding a new pace. Gravity pulls me forward, asking only that I let go and fall. That steep slide, even after nearly 2 decades, lives in my body in vivid detail. The whizzing sound of my Gore-Tex shell and the burning of my skin against the grainy surface, the crack of the ski against my head, the breathlessness at my utter loss of control, the dizzy wave of nausea and relief once my flailing body finally came to rest. And then my aching limbs as I trudged step by step, sweat drenching my back, dragging skis and poles and pride along the creek bed and up the 1/4 mile of slope to the trail. But the terror of that fall was never enough to outrun the adrenaline rush of standing on the edge and dropping off. So I returned to the slopes day after day, week after week, year after year. I longed for the speed, the feeling of my skis arcing below me, my body resisting the centripetal force at the peak of the turn, then releasing, redirecting, and initiating again and again and again, the way my mind dissolved into movement. Skiing taught me to understand my body in a way I never had, helped me recognize its strength, its grace, its primal wisdom. I connected with my muscles and bones, felt the mountain air fill my lungs, languished in my limbic brain, and began to learn the art of movement. I discovered how to move through transitions from turn to turn, moment to moment, change to change. I could ride the wave, the slope and rhythm. I could trust myself to respond to a shift in conditions, an undulation in the terrain, an unexpected obstacle. Navigating the last decade, the same edge as my mother was when her health began a steep decline, I feel myself leaning back into the hill, resisting the pull of the next phase of my life. Rather than flowing, I hold back with another glass of wine, another episode on Netflix, an extra 30 minutes of sleep instead of a run. If I'm not careful, I'll find myself once again in that slide, hurtling down rather than floating, sliding and spinning when I could be finding the rhythm and joy before me. The choice is mine. How long can I just stand here and look? When will I drop off the rim and fall?
Wonderful words from wonderful writers. If you like what you saw on Fishtrap Fireside, share it with your friends and family. Anyone, anywhere can take in Fireside online at fishtrap.org and on Fishtrap's YouTube channel. And I want to thank our November sponsor again, Amy Tea. Appreciate that. The next Fishtrap Fireside comes to you beginning on Friday, December 3rd. Until then, have a great fall and a great Thanksgiving. I'll see you again next month.